Immigrants and non-whites have been a target of the Trump administration since Trump himself came down the golden escalator 10 years ago. And now, here we are. ICE has arrested nearly 75,000 people with no criminal records, data shows. More than a third of the roughly 220,000 people arrested by ICE officers in the first 9 months of the Trump administration had no criminal histories, according to new data. The data, which includes ICE arrests from January 20th to October 15th, shows that nearly 75,000 people with no criminal records have been swept up in immigration operations that the president and his top officials have said would target murderers, rapists, and gang members. The figures provide the most revealing look to date into the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. They were shared by the University of California, Berkeley's Deportation Data Project, which obtained them through a lawsuit brought against Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So the only reason we have this data is because there was a lawsuit against ICE. They wouldn't give this to us from the, quote, most transparent administration in history, their words, otherwise. The data is compiled by an internal ICE office that handles arrest, detention, and deportation data. The administration stopped regularly posting detailed information on ICE arrests in January. For arrestees with criminal histories, the data doesn't distinguish between those with a history of minor offenses and those who have committed more serious crimes like rape and murder, whom the administration said it was targeting. Border Patrol and ICE are both under the Department of Homeland Security, but they are two different agencies with two different missions. Border Patrol agents typically operate along the southern and northern borders, but recently hundreds have been sent into the interior of the United States to track down undocumented immigrants. In mid-May, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller threatened to fire senior ICE officials if they did not begin arresting at least 3,000 migrants per day, NBC News previously reported. ICE agents have made an average daily total of 824 arrests since January 20th, according to the data. Those figures are still more than double the average daily arrest under the Biden administration in 2024, when ICE arrested about 312 people per day. Now we're really feeling the pain in the workforce, said George Carrillo, Chief Executive Officer of the Hispanic Construction Council. Carrillo praised the Trump administration for its efforts to secure the border, but said the ongoing enforcement operations are having a significant impact on companies that employ migrant workers. Now, even the most conservative Republicans are feeling it and understanding that, hey, something different has to be done because now it is affecting their business, he said, and they're worried about the strategy. So it's really funny to me that, in a capitalist society, we don't question the morals of what we're doing to other human beings unless it affects our business. ICE is currently holding 65,000 migrants in detention centers around the country, according to DHS data posted online. Mike, what do you think about these numbers? We have about a third of people that have been detained in the past year, roughly, that have absolutely no criminal history. And the Trump administration has promised us that they're going to go, quote, after the worst of the worst. And it seems like they're not quite doing that.
I think it's pretty disgusting. The Trump administration has said they've been going after the worst of the worst this entire time. And time again, we see that's not entirely true. They started all this ICE raid stuff, mass deportation, over invoking the Alien Enemies Act, which allowed them to sort of expedite the process and completely remove due process. And they were originally just literally grabbing people, shoving them in planes, and then shipping them out over to like El Salvador and Gitmo and all these things until the judges were like, whoa, like what's going on? This is pretty crazy. You can't be doing this. And all that started with the promise of we're going to go after Tren de Aragua and MS-13. Those are the targets, guys. We're not going to be going after the grandma at the store. We're not going to be going after the guy on the roof. We're going to be going after gangs, cartels, drug traffickers, rapists, all this stuff. And as we've seen, like you mentioned, Stephen Miller is the one who pushed, we want 3,000 arrests a day. And they're not even getting 1/3 of that. And up until the big, beautiful bill passed and this funding for ICE surged, they were getting much less than they're currently getting now. So it's been a bit of a mess for them. And they've been doing things as recklessly and violently as they can. There's been widespread abuse that's happening every single day. I see a new video of somebody doing something illegal as an ICE officer. Um, and not only are they going after like undocumented immigrants as well, but they're also detaining and arresting a lot of U.S. citizens too. There was just a thing with this new operation that they launched in Louisiana. I think it's called Catahoula Crunch. And during part of that operation, they're specifically targeting criminals who have been convicted of specific crimes that have been released. And they even have it posted on the DHS with the names, photos, and crimes of certain people that are on their watch list or whatever. Yet there was a woman who was almost abducted right outside of her home. She's a U.S. citizen. They tried to abduct her twice, and she just made a run for her home. And when she showed up to her home, like a second car swooped in, and like all these dudes were chasing her, but they stopped at the property line. And then her stepfather came out and argued with them, and it's just been one thing after another. So it's very shocking to hear that a lot of these people don't have criminal convictions, but it's also not that surprising given how they've just been kind of going after anybody, everybody. And most people who are here illegally, even though they have illegally entered the country, that is a civil offense. It is not a criminal offense. And so that doesn't mean that they're criminals by default. And they have to be convicted of crimes. They have to have due process, and we've had none of that.
Yeah, I agree. It is disgusting to see. And this has been the theme over the past several months. It's just over and over again. We had that Hyundai plant in Georgia incident where they deported about 500 South Koreans that were working there. And it turns out that most of them were documented. They had their H-1B visas. They were good to go. And only, I think, about 50 of them actually came back to work because the rest of them were like, hell no, I'm not going back there. What if they do it again? That's crazy. And so obviously that hurt the plant, that hurt the business, that hurt Hyundai, that hurt our relations with South Korea. It's just the extent of what they're doing is just crazy. And, this is the kind of thing that happens when you just set an arbitrary number of how many arrests you want per day. And then you threaten to fire the officials if they don't meet these numbers. They're going to do crazy stuff. They're going to send their masked, Gestapo ICE people over to Home Depot and Lowe's and random construction sites and anywhere, Walmart, it doesn't matter, Costco, anywhere they see non-white people, they're going to assume maybe they're undocumented. Let's arrest them and we'll find out if they're not later. And it's just crazy to see what this is doing to families, what it's doing to the sanity and security of just everyday people that are just trying to go to work, trying to go to the grocery store, trying to go to school. I mean, imagine being in that position where you are scared to leave your house because you might get arrested. I think it's just insane, the point we've gotten to. But at the same time, we should have seen this coming with Trump. I mean, he basically almost announced this at his first announcement of running for president. And of course, he used words like we're going to target the rapists, the murderers, the bad people. But just knowing Trump and everything we've learned about him, we should have known that this is only going to get ugly and only going to get worse. And it certainly has. And we're only 1 year in to the second administration. We have 3 more years. Like, how much worse is it going to get?
Yeah, and the real problem here too with ICE is there's no accountability. They're hiding their faces, they're hiding their names, they're hiding their badge numbers. And if something abusive happens, who do you contact? Because so far, everybody that has gone through these things, maybe ultimately at the end of the day, I'm not following a lot of these cases super closely. Maybe eventually it's possible to get some answers, but the problem with a lot of this is it's always retroactive. You've already been traumatized. You've already been violated. Where's the recourse? And now you have to wait like all this time for that to go through. And during that waiting process, something could happen again.
And usually in these proceedings, you have to get lawyers involved. And a lot of these people can't afford that. And they can't afford the time to take away from their jobs to deal with this stuff. It's really putting a lot of people that are already in unfortunate positions in society and the economy in just worse positions. It's like taking the people who are struggling the most and making them suffer even more. It's just disgusting what we've seen from this administration. And hopefully we can kind of right our wrongs as time goes on with the elections coming up in the midterms. Maybe we can sort of put a couple breaks on this, but with 3 more years to go, I really feel for the people that this is affecting the most. So we'll have to see.